Hey, good morning. We're up to Daf Dalit on the base, the bottom line. And the share this morning is Leila Nishmas of David Teichman. My son-in-law is Avrami's half-brother, who unfortunately was nifty last night on Shabbos. Neshama Shav and Aliyah. Tan Rabbana. Dine Mamanis B'Shloisha. The Mishnah had said that Dine Mamanis is with three. We saw that three meant by Hoidah v'Halva meant three hedyotes. By Gezelas v'Chavalos, three mumchim. Bim hoya mumcha l'rabim. And if this individual is a mumcha l'rabim, then don afilu yichidi. Then he can judge even alone. Says the Ran, don't make a mistake to think that this mumcha is one of the three mumchim. In other words, that by Gezelas v'Halvos, Gezelas v'Chavalos, you can have a mumcha. The mumcha l'rabim is of greater stature. He's the mumcha l'rabim. He's universally accepted. He's the god ladar. He's a paisik. He's a mumcha l'rabim. So then a mumcha l'rabim can judge alone. He could judge alone. He could judge alone. But again, it's not the three mumchin that was smuchim. The three mumchin that we said judge Gezelos Chavalos are people who had smicha. We spoke out that beautiful Taris Chaim, that the smicha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu passed down. This is a person who is illustrious. He's uniquely known. He's a mumcha l'rabim. He could judge. So there's a difference the Ran's making between the word mumcha. Don't misconstrue that they're the same. They're not the same. Mumcha l'rabim afilu, then don yichidi, he can even what? He could judge alone. Right. If he could judge alone. Amar Rav Nachman, kigoin ano don dine mamanis. We know after seeing Masechta Baba Basra, fellas, right? Rav Nachman was, remember the sugya of Shrimera, Rav Nachman was the man, and Dine Mamanis, he was the man, he was the Mumchel Rabim. I know, done Dine Mamanis Bichide, I can judge monetary matters Bichide. This is their capacity. Now the question is, what qualities did they have that they're able to do this? See, Boilahu, Kigoin Anna, the Gemirna Usverna, that we're learned and we're able to know past circumstances, and we're able to be mechadish future circumstances. Rashi seems to say v'savirna yodei ani lahosif v'liyashtev haimim midaiti. I'm able to be creative, not just say over what other poskim had said, but I can say my own. And now's the kicker: v'nakitna rishusa, and I took rishus from the reish galusa. I took rishus from reish galusa to judge. Nafkamina, fellas, is if the Reish Galusa doesn't give you a rishus and you judge, you'd have to pay if you make a mistake. If you have a rishus to judge from the Reish Galusa, then if you paskin, you can get off the hook. On the other hand, if you don't get permission from Reish Galusa, then you will be chayiv. Avaloi nakav rishusa dine loydina. Okay, continue with daf hey. You'll listen to the best you can. So now we want to know the following. I know the Gamirna Severina Naktina Rishusa, Avaloi Naka Rishusa Dina Leidina, but the psak is not a psak. In other words, if you don't get Rishus in the Reish Galusa to Davin, to Paskin, and you do Paskin, then there's no din. Gamirna Severina, you are qualified. Unequivocally, you are qualified. There's no question about it. The Shiler is you didn't get Rishus. Memela, if you didn't get Rishus, that says I don't have a right to practice, regardless of what of my skills. If you don't get rishus, din is still a din. Just you would have to pay. In other words, your psak that you gave is a psak, but you would have to pay if you blow it. Toshma, the Mazutra Berei Rav Nachman, Mazutra the son of Nachman, done dina, v'ta'a. He judged the case v'ta'a, and he made a mistake. Also, Kamed Rav Yosef, Amalei, Rav Yosef said, in Kibluch Alayhu, if they, the parties involved, were makabel your psak, that if you, no matter what, will be makabel, even if you blow it, you don't have to pay, like the shalim. B'iloi, but since you didn't ask rishus from the Reish Galusa, and they weren't makabel outright that you don't have to pay, Zil Shlim. Shema Milah, we hear from this Maisa, Kilaynake Rishusa, if you don't get Rishus, Dinei Din, your din is a good din, the Pesach's a good din, but ever you're going to have to go ahead and pay. And Shema Milah, you have a Raya. So if you're qualified, you can paskin. But without Rishus and the Reish Galusa, if you do paskin, you will have to pay. With Rishus and the Reish Galusa, you would not have to pay. Now, I was listening to Sully Bornstein, and he reminded me of something we had discussed earlier. I know because I have it in the Meshech Chochmah underlined. It's based upon this Taisvis. If you look at the Taisvis, it's the small first, when the lines get wide, it's the first Taisvis, that's when the lines get wide. Echad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The only one who judges alone is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what do you mean? How could you judge if only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can judge? It says, if they're telling you, not telling you that Pesach is not a Pesach, it's telling you an Eitz Taiva that you shouldn't judge a Chidi. You could judge a Chidi, but it's an Eitz Taiva not to. Shlayitid, you should make a mistake. You should make a mistake. It's mashma from this Gemara that HaKadosh Baruch Hu alone judges. Now, this is the Gemara Bavli is in Masechta Avos is different than the Yerushalmi. Here's the Yerushalmi. You can see it? Will be Yerushalmi. This is the Meshech Chochmah in Pashas Vayelach, guys. Meshech Chochmah Pashas Vayelach. Will be Yerushalmi Reish Sanhedrin Amru. So this is Yerushalmi version of Agamara. Af HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ein Adon Yechidi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not judge. The opposite of ours. Does not judge a chidi. Shneimar, it says the Chol Tzva Shemayim owned them. All his host of Shemayim, they're standing there. So you see that when judgment is going on, he's not alone. He has all the Srafim, the Chayos, the standing around him. Ukashu Chaysim, however, this is what we brought it in for. When the Kadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and closes the court case, Ein Chaysim Ela B'Yachid. So he doesn't judge B'Yachid, but he's chaysim b'yachid. He goes ahead and signs alone. When he signs, there's no one around. Shneimar, avol agalecha es harosham b'ksav emes. V'dinechad mizmach skazik. Okay. V'hine kol yimei tshuva, all the days of tshuva, shemelach yoshev al kisei, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sitting on his throne. Utzva shemayim owned him love, and the tzva shemayim they're standing around him. Yachol lahoyel rak al averos she'ein behem chil Hashem. You're able to go ahead, and he can be Michael on all Averis except in Aver of Chil Hashem, and they go ahead and judge. Aval Chil Hashem al Zeh Amru im Yechupar Lachem Ha'avain Atamusam Beis Yisrael. Until you die, you're not going to get a kapara. Ki ein Yom Kippurim mechaper. Yom Kippur cannot be mechaper for what? For Chil Hashem. Now is the Meshech Chochmah a Chiddush Nifla. V'rak be'es, let me make it a little larger maybe. V'rak be'es chasima, when Hashem is signing, and he's signing alone, Shashem don yechidi, as hu shas hakoisha. This is a time of proper time. Shashem yisbarach yislach meiroiv tuvoy achrei goydel habechi v'acharata. Kadosh Baruch Hu could go ahead and be Michael after the person's sense of crying and regret. In other words, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Michael on a skill, right? Who's going to tell him otherwise? All the other days where the Malachim are around, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't be Michael on his covet because the Malachim are going to taina. How could that be? Look at this person. He was Mechalel the shame. He was Mechalel your name. How could you be Michael? You can't be Michael, and they're going to go ahead and make tainas. However, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is alone, then there's no malachim to say anything to him. And therefore, for Chil Hashem, he would be able to be Michael. L'chein, benila, in Nila, when Hashem is alone, is by Nila Sachag, by Nila Yom Kippur. Sidroy Apsukim, Lama Tamusa, Kilayach, Echbaitz Moisames. Why should you die? Hashem doesn't want death. You know why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu can let you off the hook. At that time, he can let you off the hook. And therefore, says the Meshech Chochmah quite beautifully, just playing off this Taisus that says Hashem judge alone. Yerushalmi that Hashem doesn't judge alone, but Yerushalmi says Hashem signs alone. He signs alone after through all the court cases of Yom Kippur. Kadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachal closes the door. He secludes himself. There's no malachim around. There's no one around. And when he's in front of malachim, you have Chil Hashem. They say, "How can you be mechal on your covet? How could you be mechal on your covet? A king can't be mechal on his covet. Can't be mechal on his covet. Melech Machay Alachim can't be mechal on his covet. That's when they're around. When they're not around, and he's alone, then Yachal can be mechal on his covet. So even the Aveira Chil Hashem could be mechaper as a result. Beautiful chiddush of Ramei Simcha and Pashas Vayelach, based upon this Taisus that said that Hashem is judges alone. The Yerushalmi says conversely, he doesn't judge alone, but he does sign alone. I think very nice there. Okay, good. Back in the Gemara. So therefore, a person has to ask Rishus from the Reish Galusa. If he doesn't ask Rishus, his din is a din. His psak is psak. However, he has to make up monetary compensation. Amarav. Haiman de boy lemeidan dina. He told me boy lemiftery. If a person wants to judge, but he wants to get off the hook. If a person wants to judge and he wants to get off the hook, lishkol rishusa mebei reish galusa. Let him take rishus from the reish galusa. Let him take rishus from the reish galusa to get off the hook. V'cheina meshmor lishkol rishusa mebei reish galusa. Let him take rishus from the reish galusa. Okay, so if you go ahead and you ask the reish galusa psak permission, and the reish galusa gives you permission, then you'll be about to get off the hook. Now, pshita. Now it's pashit. Now let's, as a hakdama, the leader of Jewry in Bavel was called the Reish Galusa, literally the head of the diaspora. The head of the in Eretz Yisrael was the Nasi. He was the direct descendant rather of David HaMelech. So who had priority? Who had more power? You would think the Nasi, and the truth not. We're going to see from this Gemara, it wasn't the Nasi. We're going to see why it was the Reish Galusa. So if you get permission for the Reish Galusa in Bavel, you could paskin in Bavel, and you could even paskin in Eretz Yisrael without having to make up payments. What about if you get Rishus in Eretz Yisrael? Could you paskin in Bavel? Since the Nasi does not have the authority of the Reish Galusa, can you? You can't. That's the Gemara Shaila, okay? Says the Gemara. Okay. I thought that was a kasha. I'm muting it, so it's a teretz. Okay, anyway. Rabbi, we're up to Hey Amid Aleph. Pshita, mehacha lahacha, in Babel to Bavel, umehasam lahasam, and from Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, umehacha lahasam, and from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, mahani, rishus helps that you won't have to pay. So in other words, what are all these? Reish Galusa helps b'chol makayim, the Nasi helps in Eretz Yisrael. The shaila is, what about the Nasi to Bavel? The hacha shavit. The reason it helps, because Hacha in Bavel, we're compared to a Shavit. The Hassam in Eretz Yisrael, Mechaykek, you're compared to a lawgiver. You're compared to a less of a stick. If you're looking at sticks, Shavit is gezunta stick, and a Mechaykek is a kleiner stick, kleiner stecken. Keditanya, La Yasa Shavit mi Yehuda, the Shavit should not leave Yehuda. Eila Rashi, this is the bracha that Yaakov Avinu gives to Yehuda. The Shavit should not leave Yehuda. Elu Rashi Golia Sheba Bavel. This refers to what? The heads of the exilarch in Bavel. Sheroidin es Yisrael b'Shavit, that they go ahead and they rule Yisrael with a stick. U'mechaykim b'bein raglov, and mechaykim literally a lawgiver between his legs. Elu b'nei bonav shel Hillel. These are the descendants of Hillel. Shemalamdim Torah b'Rabim, who go ahead. They teach Torah b'Rabim. They teach Torah. They teach Torah b'Rabim. Now, if you look at Tosfos, the Hacha Shavit v'Hasan Mechaykik, three Tosfos from the bottom. Mashma the shevet adif. It's mashma a shevet is stronger than a mechaykek. V'hod the amar beperek makam shenagu in Pesachim aval me Eretz Yisrael lebavel kimin danan kafinin lehu avdina kavasayu v'amar benu tam the hani mili bin mulsid. So now it's mashma that what that Eretz Yisrael that may Eretz Yisrael the Bavel kiven that non confina lahu avdina kavasayu. It's mashma that in Bavel they were subservient. From Rabbeinu Tam, the Hani Mili ben Milsa the Issa Beheta, the Bnei Eretz Yisrael Chachim Etfei. When it comes to Issa Beheta, Bnei Yisrael were more powerful. The Avir there Eretz Yisrael Machkim. Here you have the Avir Eretz Yisrael's Machkim the Indian Issa Beheta. Kidama Hocha, the Ikru Mechoykek Shemalamdim Torah Barabim. Awalinian have Kois Mammon to go ahead and take away money from one and the other. Liftgar, the Hefker Bezin Hefker, Adifam Bnei Bavel, the Ikru Shavit, Shavoidim Mesam B'Makal. Behind the time of Mission, the Rosh Goyla Maskirim, Mizachrim, the Nasi Sheretz Yisrael in the Kavos, Kidamina B'Yerushalmi. Okay, very geschmack of Tosis. Guys, Tosis says the following. Here's the kasha. It seems in Eretz Yisrael is more powerful than Bavel. Agamar clearly says more. Eretz Yisrael is more powerful. Bavel is more powerful. Says Tosis, Eretz Yisrael is more powerful when it comes to Issa Beheta. So something's us as mutter. But when it comes to money, when it comes to Chayshim Mishpat, when it comes to being able to take money away from the other, and we know the mechanism often that Bezdin using is Hefker, Bezdin, Hefker, by being mafia your property taken away. That's as a result of the power of Bavel. That's a result of the power of Bavel that came from as symbolized by a Shevet. Tosis alludes to that both the Nasi and the Reish Galusa, they both descended from David, but the Reish Galusa descended from the male part of David, where the Nasi descended from the female part. So that will explain the heavy hitter is symbolized by the Shevet, the male, versus the female that is Mechokek. So it's not a carte statement that the Bnei Bavel are more than Ben Eretz Yisrael. Taisus is saying our discussion in Sanhedrin is Dine Mominus. Linear Dine Mominus concerning the din of Hefker, Bes, and Hefker, they're more powerful. Linear Nisavehet, the Bnei Yisrael. Okay, very nice place just to tell us a lot, fill in a lot of information. Weiter. What about Mechasam Lahacha? What about from giving Rishus in Eretz Yisrael to Bavel? Giving Rishus in Eretz Yisrael to Bavel to Paskin. Mai. Toshma, the Rabbi Bar Chana, who was from Eretz Yisrael, Don Dina, V'tah, Aslachamed Reb Chia Amalei. Reb Chia told him, in Kiblu Chalayu, if they were Makabel, like the Shalem, V'iloi Zil Shlim. Ivo Rabbi Archana Rishus having Naked. He took Rishus from, as we're going to see, from Rebbe. Rebbe was in Eretz Yisrael. So he said he took Rishus, and nonetheless he has to pay. Shmamina, Mehasam Lahacha, getting Rishus to Paskin in Eretz Yisrael. For Bavel, Loi Mahani does not help. That does not help. Okay. It doesn't help. That you're going to go ahead and ask Rishus, but the bottom line is you're going to have to pay, because as we're going to see in a second, Rabbi Rav Huna, he asked Rishus, and nonetheless, Rav Chia told him, if you blow it, you're going to have to pay. Okay. Rabba Barav Huna, ki havi mansi bahade debei Reish Galusa. So when he's having arguments, halachic arguments with the house of Reish Galusa, Ama lav minaychu naktina rishusei, right? You didn't take rishus from us. Naktina rishusei me Abba Mari me Rav, Rav me Rav Chia me Rebbe. So you see that what he did take rishus. Right, you see that he did take Rishus. He said, in other words, he was trying to show that I got Rishus, but if you Rishus in Bavel, in Eretz Yisrael doesn't help for Bavel, what was he saying? You're telling me that the Rishus of Eretz Yisrael doesn't help for Bavel. Yet he was trying to give this as an excuse for Rabbi Rav Huna ki avimansi b'hadei Reish Galusa, as he was fighting with them. Amar, he told them, "Lav minachem nakina Rishusa." Like, if I didn't take Rishus from you, I took Rishus from all the Bnei Eretz Yisrael. So l'chayro, what's his taina? It doesn't help. The Gemara answers, it really taka doesn't help, but really he was just what he was really subject to Reish Galusa, but he was just telling them what words. So why did he take Rishus? If it wasn't going to help, as Rabbi knew he was going to Bavel, and he knew it wasn't going to help, why bother taking Rishus from Bnei Eretz Yisrael? What would help? Why bother? The Gemara answers, for the cities that were on the Gevul of Eretz Yisrael, were on the boundaries, it would help for them. That even though you might consider them Bnei Bavel and subject to the Reish Galusa, no, his authority that was given to him would help for these shtetler. My Rishusa, what is the Rishus? When you say Rishus, what Rishus do you give? Okay, this is very, guys, when we say a person gets smicha, right? What does that mean? It means he takes a test on Yeridea, certain chalakim of Yeridea, right? So watch. My Rishusa, ki avinachas Rabba bar Chana leBavel, amalei Reb Chia leRebbi, ben Achi, when Rabba bar Chana came to Bavel, amalei, he said, Reb Chia leRebbi, Reb Chia told Rebbe, guys, the words are important over here. Ben Achi, my nephew, the son of my brother. So Reb Chia calls the person, Rabba bar Chana, the son of his brother, Yoirid leBavel, he's going to Bavel. Yoira, can he teach Paskin Issa Beheta? And Rebbe answered Yoira. Yodin, can he Paskin Choshen Mishpat? And Rebbe answered Yodin. Yate B'chayris, can he Mata a B'char? Remember, guys, it's after the Churban Bias. The B'char has Kedusha when it's born. The only way to eat it is if it gets a mum. Once it gets a mum, it's edible. Before it gets a mum, it's a huge problem because it's kaddish. It's a carbon that you can't bring. So it would behoove people to go ahead and get a mum to make a few good steaks, right, or lamb chops. Anyway, so therefore you need a mumcha to be matter it. You need a mumcha to matter it. So Reb Chia asked for Rabbi bar Chana, could he matter b'chayris? And the answer was yatir. So two pieces of information. Reb Chia is asking on behalf of his nephew, the son of his brother, and can he do three things? Yaira, Yaira, Yodin, Yodin, Yatir b'chayris, Yatir. Good. We're now going to have the same person asking on behalf of Rav, and we're going to have two chilukim. One, he's going to ask on Rav his nephew from his sister. And in addition, he's going to ask what, and the answer is going to be that Rav cannot mata b'chayris. Yoira, yes. Yodin, yes. Not mata b'chayris. So two chalukim between the dialogue vis-a-vis Rabbi bar Chana and Rav. Now, ki avinochas Rav leBavel, when Rav is going to Bavel, so Amalei Reb Chia leRebbi, Reb Chia said to Rebbe, Ben Achoisi, the son of my sister. So again, my nephew, but not because of my brother, the nephew of my sister. Yoira leBavel. Yoira, Yoira, Yodin, Yodin. Yatir b'chayris, al yatir. Can't do it. Good? Now, Maishna limar the Kokori ben Achi, that Rav Chia called Rabba bar Chana the son of his brother, Umaishna limar to Rav the Kokori ben Achoisi, that he called him what? The son of my sister. V'chi tema hachi havi maisa, Ivaha mar Evai, v'chana, v'shila, Umarta, Reb Chia, Kula b'nei Abba bar Acha Karsla mikafri habe. So we have Chana and Rav, both. We have Reb Chia's brother was Chana. Reb Chia's brother was Chana. So if Rav was the son of Ivoi, guys. Go, Ivoi and Chana are brothers. Good. Look at the first two names over here. V'amamar, Ivoi, v'Chana, they're brothers. No, Rav was the son of what? Of Ivo. Rabba was the son of Rabba. Chana, he was the son of Chana. And Reb Chia was another brother. So Pashtus, Reb Chia's nephews were Rav from Ivoi and Rabba from Chana. So how can, in other words, not Pshat, there was a sister. How did this come about? In other words, you just look on the surface, why did he call one nephew the son of his brother, and the other one, Rav, the son of his sister? Rav also was the son of his brother. Ivoi was the brother of what? Of of Chana, of Rav Chia. Again, Rav Chia, Chana, and Ivoi were brothers. So Rav came from Ivoi, Rabba came from Chana, and Rav Chia was a brother. So why is it calling him Ben Achaisi? Says Rav Bar Achva Dahavi Bar Achte. Okay, basically, I have written over here is Ivo was born to I was born to Abba Baracha, who was an alman. So when Ivo was born, and to Abba Barchana when he was an alman, he married a second wife, and he had a daughter with the second wife. Rav Chia was born. Rav Chia was born when Ivo. Now, okay, Ivo married Rav Chia's half sister, which produced Rav. Thus, Rav was the son of Rav, half's brother and half sister. Okay, a little vibe from Yevamis that we can just go on. Okay, so that's basically it's the Yevamis thing. So therefore, Iba Yisema on the base al Shem Chachmasai through his Chachma Dechsiv Emel Lechachma Chaysiyat. In other words, L'chayra Rav was bigger than Rabba Barachana. So Rabba Barachana was just the son of what of his brother. But he's calling him the son of his sister. He's calling Rav the son of his sister. The sister meaning not literally the flesh and blood sister, but Chachma. That Emma lechachma achoisiyat. You're calling Chachma, you're my sister. So he's calling Rav ben his sister vis-a-vis his Chachma. Now, the second difference was Rabbi Barachana was given permission to mata b'chayrim, whereas Rav was not. So it says the Gemara, yata b'chayris al yata. My timer, ilaim mishum delay chachim. If you're going to tell me that Rav wasn't smart enough, he wasn't great enough, haka'amina dechachim tuva. You just told me that what he's the ben achaisi, and you didn't call Rabba that. Yet you let Rabba matter. It's counterintuitive. You're telling me on one hand that Rabba was greater than Rabba. Why? Because he was called the son of a daughter rather than the son of a son. Yet conversely, you're saying Rabba was greater because Rabba is being matter b'chayris and Rabba is not. El mishum d'lei b'ki b'mumi. You're going to say that maybe Rabba wasn't an expert in mumi. In other words, this has nothing to do with what with something you can learn from Gemara. It has to do with practical. Rosh Hashiva said when he first became a Rav, he said he literally slept in the shlachtais. Literally slept in the shlachtais to see, the things you had to learn. You had to learn hands-on. You had to see what the problem is. It's one thing to hear about a treifa. To see the treifa is a lot different things. Same thing over here. You had expert in woman. So it says that maybe Rab wasn't an expert, a physical expert in woman. You can't say that. Why? Elamishim the lebeki b'mumin v'amar Rab shmayna asa chadashim gadalti eitzel roya behema. For 18 months, I grew up next to a roya behema, and I spent 18 months with a shepherd. Leida ezamum kavua, which mum is permanent, bezamum oivran, which is a mum that's going to pass by. Ella lechalik lekavid l'Rabba Barchana. The reason why they did not allow both Rabba Barchana and Rav is going to Bavel, everyone's going to go to Rav because Rav is greater. What are you going to do? Let's give him a little something to write something. What's that something? What's that something? That you can mata b'charis and Rav can't. So that's going to give greater cover to Rabbah, that Rabbah would be able to go ahead and paskin b'charis where Rav would not be able to. So it's for that reason. But nothing to do with Rav. Everything to go to him and enhance Rabba Rachana. People Yisema, Mishama Gufa. Because with this reason, the Rav Bekia B'muma Tfei, Rav was a bigger expert in woman. Rav was a bigger expert in woman. Since Rabba was a bigger expert in woman, right? He was a bigger expert in woman. Therefore, the loyada inisha, people wouldn't realize why he mattered it. V'amri ki hagavna shari Rav, yasal mishrei mum oiver, and they'll go ahead and matter a mum oiver. Just 1 second, I want to get something. Okay, so we have 2 reasons why Rav was not permitted to go ahead and paskin. The first reason was to give cover to Rabbi Baruch Chana, let him paskin. The second reason is really interesting. because he was too good. He was such an expert. His expertise would lead to other people mistakenly take that and say, well, Rav Mat did that, and therefore we in similar situations can do that heter as well. This is interesting enough, is a Vilna Goin in Masechta Yeridea. This is fascinating. Yeridea Siman Reish Mem Beis Yud. Okay, this is halachas kivud Rabbi v'Talmud Chacham. Again, Yeridea Reish Mem Beis Yud. Yesh mi shekasav she'asa lechakim lahatir dava hatamua. It's asa for a chacham to matter something that's wondrous. Shenira l'rabim, it'll appear to others. Shehiter esa asa. It'll appear to people shehiter esa asa that he matted. What's your concern? That they'll matter something that's asa, that's really asa, and that's the halacha. The Gra brings in Chaf Aleph. What's the source? Says the Yesh Mashikosa b'Sanhedrin v'Iba Yisema Mishum, in his cryptic lashon, guys. It's this halacha. This just you wouldn't even know in the beginning of Sanhedrin Mashikosa v'Iba Yisema. It's this Gemara Iba Yisema that Rav was too good, that people are going to mistakenly be, certain things that they just know, but you got to be careful. The Rav's got to be careful when he passes that people shouldn't make a mistake. It's very it's. I had an incident. I'm going to take it off here for a second. Igomer Rishus Olamali, Fred the Gemara. Igomer, if a person is learned, Rishus Olamali, Lemishka, why does he have to take Rishus? In other words, what reason does he have to take Rishus? And here's the answer. Shemaisa Shahaya. The Tanya. Pamachas holach Rebbe l'makam echad. V'ro'a b'nei Adam shemegavlin isaseyim b'tuma. Rebbe came to a place and he saw that people were kneading their dough b'tuma. They were kneading the dough b'tuma. Amalem mifnei ma'atem megablin isaseyim b'tuma. Why are you doing that? So Amuloi Talmud Echad Balakan. They said to him, there was a Talmud that came here, v'hoyru lanu, and he taught us mei bitsoyim a machshirin. In order for something to be mekabel tuma, it has to go ahead and come in contact with one of 7 liquids. One of them is mayim. But he taught us that mei bitsoyim, water from a swamp, a betza, swamp, or agam, a marsh. A water from that is not machshir. Water from there is not machshir. But he had taught them mei beitzim. He didn't teach them mei bitsoyim. He said mei beitzim, the water of the egg. The what's that called? Album, whatever. I don't go near the stuff, but saying the stuff that's what he taught him. So they made a mistake between beitzim and bitsoyim, which is an easy mistake. So what happened as a result was, since he wasn't clear, they were going ahead and they were making the inusavi. They thought what? Mei bitsoyim ka'amar nami bahar. Another mistake they made. Oh, by the way, I had a chavrusa also. Leilena was nifty young. His name was BZ Weiss. Geschmack, a special person, really unbelievably person. When we did this Gemara together, he said he heard once in the yeshiva. That's why they called Masech the Beit Sabeya. Because this mistake over here of the Beit Sim B'Tsoyim, right? That's why in yeshiva, right? What are you learning? Masech the Beya. No one says I'm learning Masech the Beitza. Everyone says I'm learning Masech the Beya, and it comes from this Gemara, right? They should make that mistake. I thought it was fascinating. Anyway, back in the Gemara. Another Nami maybe it's coming. V'tor Nami B'Ha. Make Karmayan, make Fega, Psulin. The water from the Carmen of Fega, these are rivers apostle. Why? Because they were at the Mei B'Tsoyim. Vinusabab, they held. Now this means it's possible, guys, to use for the Mechatas. It's possible. The Mechatas has to be water from a fountain. Now river is a fountain. These are rivers. So when they held Inusavar, regarding being not considered water, it's not considered water. It's not considered water when it's what? When it's regarding being maksha something to makabel tuma. That was the mistake. V'loihi hasam le'inyan chatos, hasam dir le'inyan chatos, be'inyan mayim chayim. Dir le'inyan chatos, you need mayim chayim. Hacha achshure kol b'hu machshure. Anything's going to be maksha. Right. The difference is, by Tosfos says that they are rivers. So if they're rivers, they should be kosher lechatas. Why aren't they kosher lechatas? Because they have shmutz in them, and therefore it has to be mayim chayim el keli. You need the water touching the kli itself. But since there's shmutz in this water, it's a chatzitza. Masha'en came by what? Masha'en came by. It's considered water when it comes to be mashla tuma. So in other words, don't think the reason why the make of the water of Karmayon or Fega is because it's not from a source. It's rivers flow; they are a source. But these rivers, since the water schmutz, it's dirt in it. That's the problem. Not the fact that it is water, but it's water that's dirty. Since it has dirt in it, and therefore it's going to be a chatzitza between the kli and the ash. And maybe that's why it's no good. That's the distinction between the two. Anyway, so therefore you needed a Talmud who would be that when he gives a psak, right, can make clear cut that there's no mistake. So that's why you have to, even though you can be gomer, you can know something, you still need a Rebbe to go ahead and give you reshus, because the Rebbe can give you figure out if you're clear when you speak and you won't come to make a mistake. Again, over here, mistake was not a psak. The mistake is in what they heard. You have to be, you have to be an expert in communication as well to be able to communicate the psak. How many times there's a place to give a psak and people, again, I can tell you so many times in my office, the last thing I would do before a girl left, I would ask her, what did you just hear? What did you just, because people tend to hear what they want to hear. It's a very normal thing. I had girls who heard the exact opposite of what I said. And I learned it early on. What? Oh, Rabbi Stern said. Yeah, Rabbi Stern said. Okay, weiter. Tana b'oisa shah, gozru, Talmud al yoira elam kain noitel rishus my rabbi. They were geyser, a Talmud, no matter how learned he is, has to take rishus, meaning he has to get smicha. He has to get smicha, meaning not smicha, but we call it smicha. He has to get yoira, yodin, yodin. Why? Because he needs a person to ask him to make sure he. Why do we say, fellas? You need to know the fifth chelik of Shulchan Aruch. Not only the four, you have to know all five. My Rebbe used to say, from mepaskin to shaila, daf mepaskin in the mensch. Before you paskin the shaila, you got to paskin the person. It's a very, very deep and clear thought. Another story. Tamchim berei de Ravami, ikloy lechater. Tamchim, the son of Ravami, he came to his town called Chater. Darish lahu, he dashed into them, mutter lil sois chitim b'Pesach. It's mutter to go ahead and soak chitim on Pesach. Rashi, mutter lil sois, lishrois ma'at b'mayim, to soak a little bit in water, ulekoitshon b'machteshes, and go ahead and grind it in a grinder. So you think that you're going to go ahead, put wheat in water. We know the infamous gebrok problem, right? Because chas v'sholom, a little wheat shouldn't have touched a little water. So he matted it, but only that what? He's talking about soaking. So he only matted it in an instance when what? When it's going to be that right immediately afterwards, you're going to go begin working on it. You're going to grind it. So that was his heta. Amruloi, they said to him, to Turdis, Tanchem, Lav Rav Moni, the Minsur Ikahacha, Bitanya, Talmud al Yoira Allah b'Makam Rabbi. So you can't go ahead and teach b'Makam Rabbi. So how were you, Rav Tanchem, able to give this psak when, after all, Rav Moni, if Minsur, this is his place and he's here? So Elam Kain Hayrachim Mena Sholish Parsois Keneged Machmei Yisrael Amalahu Labadatoi. So said Rav Tanchem, I was unaware that Rav Moni was here. Rav Chia Chaziel who Gavra, he saw this person, the Havikob Beis HaKfaris, saw this person who was in the cemetery. Amalei, Lav ben Ish Pliny, Kainata, aren't you what? A Kain, happy to be in a cemetery. So Amalei, in Avu Dahu Gavra, the father of this person, meaning myself, Gava Einayim Habe. He went after his eyes. Nasavena Begarusha, he married this Garusha, and guess what? I'm the product of the union, and I'm a Chalul, and therefore I'm not a Kayin, and therefore I can be in the cemetery. Right? We'll see in Rashi why this mice is brought in. Now, Pshita Lipalga Hakamad Mahani. Pshita, if you give a person half a right, it works. Guys, Rav was permitted to Yaira, Rav was permitted to Yodin, Rav was not permitted to Mata the Chayrim. So you see, it's not all or nothing. You can go ahead and give pieces. You can Yaira, Yodin, and not Chor. Al Tanai Mai. What about a Tanai? Can you pass it for 1 year? Given Rashi says you can pass it for a year or two. Tashma, the Amalei Rav Yochanan Rav Shamein, Hari Ata B'Shasenu, you're allowed to paskin at Shetov Etzleim until you come to us. But once you come to us, then you can't paskin anymore. Okay, that's the end of the daf today. Let's just do the Rashi about the continuity with the guy in the cemetery. Reb Chia Chazia, it says Reb Chia, he saw this fellow in the cemetery. It was Reb Chia who saw this fellow in the cemetery. Yeah, okay. Reb Chia Chazia saw this fellow in the cemetery. Says Rashi, Lo Yisparish Lan my boy hacha. It's not explained what is this doing here, right? Guys, you saw him in the cemetery, he was a chalal. What is it doing in a whole sugya? It's not a psak. What's going on over here? V'nir be'enai, says Rashi, the asalash minon, afa gav the Reb Chia talmidoi the Rebbe have, even though Reb Chia was a talmid of Rebbe, the Rebbe have chalak l'kavod the Rebbe, and in Rebbe's place he gave him kavod, milahafish zeh mina iser, in other words, if you see a person doing something wrong, you don't have to say, well, my Rebbe's here, he'll pass it. If you see something doing something wrong, you can go ahead and separate him right away. So Rebbe was in his place. He shouldn't pass it if Rebbe's there, but he saw this person in the cemetery. So it's teaching us, when do we say you can't pass it? That's to give a psak. But to see a person doing something wrong, then even though your Rebbe's there, you're permitted to go ahead and stop that individual. Rabbi, I found, says Rashi in Yerushalmi, the following incident, similar to this. The Koibe Beis HaKfaris, there's a person in the cemetery. You're not Gairis Reb Chia like Agamara. El Rebbe have it was Rebbe. V'shnei dvarim halalu ro Rebbe ba'aku. Rebbe saw two things: the mei beitzim ein machshirin. He saw that the mei beitzim, the liquid part of an egg, is not machshir. The high, and this case of the person in the cemetery. V'loy gasina the havi koy beis hakvaris el ba'aku. Don't say he was standing in the cemetery, but say he was standing in Akko. Sheba Eretz Yisrael. V'yesh bo Eretz Amin. Akko, part of it is Eretz Yisrael, and part of it, guys, is Eretz Amim. If you remember, they were geyser on Eretz Amim that has a din of since they don't go ahead and put it seen on the Kfarim, so therefore it has a din of like a midrabanan that you tamei if you go there. So what happened was Rebbe saw this happen in Akko. It wasn't a cemetery. Rebbe saw the people dealing with the Batzim and Beitzim, and he also sees this guy in Akko standing in the Chutz La'aretz part of Akko. He saw that these people were going ahead and they were needing B'tumah. The Talmud came over here and he mated. So the Kohen standing outside there. Who's there? It's Amim. Shegazu Lea Toma Kebesak Faris. Amalei Lav Ben Ish Kohen Planiato Lakach Nishnu Maisim Halalu Ze Eitzel Ze. In other words, it was learned over here, one next to the other, just because it happened one after the other. Because it happened one after the other. According to the first pshat, the Chiddush is teaching that even though Rebbe was alive, Reb Chia was the one that he didn't give it psak, he separated from the Isser. According to the Yerushalmi, it wasn't Reb Chia, it was Rebbe. And the reason it's listed together is because they happened simultaneously. And it wasn't based on Kfaris, it was mad in Eretz Ha'amim, which they were Geyza at a din of a Beis HaKfaris.